Of all the characters in the play, Sheila's the one that probably changes the most. Seemingly, she seems to be vacuous and vain, concerned with what Gerald wants for her. Um, uh, she doesn't seem to have a social or political awareness, and that really grows over the course of the play. If you want to be critical towards her, it's questionable how much it grows. Like, so for example, what's left open by Priestley is this idea: will she get back to with Gerald? And arguably, if she does, isn't that just a repetition of her life? I mean, regardless of what this scandal that's about to happen happens. Further, if she goes out on her own, like some people have this idea of her as a kind of proto suffragette, what is she going to do for work and money? It's not entirely clear what kind of life Sheila could achieve were she to be as critical and activated as some of us want to think she is. So she's an interesting character worth thinking about. Um, for sure, Priestley does, I would argue, as I say at the top, she is a character that grows. She shows increasing sympathy for others. Like she cares immediately about the death of Eva Smith and hearing about it alone, and she takes responsibility absolutely, and that's in contrast to the other characters. She wants to change. Um, so if we just go through it, she definitely and immediately wants to show sympathy for Eva Smith's death. So she has a heart, she has empathy. She takes on board that she got her fired out of her own insecurity and weakness, and she really regrets and she really seeks forgiveness. Um, Soon after being interrogated by the inspector, she's really this character who realizes the power of the inspector, almost like a Cassandra figure. She understands that he knows everything, and she says to all the characters pretty much like, he sees everything, he knows everything, we're all connected. She kind of gets the logic of the play completely. And there's a power to that because she's kind of started to understand that she needs to change and why he's there. She particularly notices Gerald's nuanced reactions to the death of this girl, and she breaks up with him there and then, and she wants to hear all about what's happened. She warns her mother constantly, and when they're gone, and sorry, when all of them think that maybe the inspector's fake, she's definitely not someone who falls in. Oh well, whatever. She gets really upset. You're all acting as if nothing's ever happened. She says she really wants to change. For me, the number one context for her would definitely be the role of women. You could think about, obviously, people think about suffragettes and feminists trying to get the vote and trying to acknowledge women's roles in society and how they are marginalized politically. But typical of the suffragettes, she's quite affluent, Sheila, and privileged. If you go further, you start to think about how class and gender cross, and that's really through Eva Smith. So Sheila is an opportunity to think through in a more complex way, what does it mean for women of different classes, and the way that they function in society and the way they live their lives. She's painted in in some ways a very stereotypical fashion, but I think there are opportunities to think about her empathy, her ability to acknowledge her own weaknesses, her need to empathize and to connect and to link with other people, to take responsibility for change, and wanting ultimately to become somebody different in society. Like with all the other characters, there's a lot of key quotations that run. She's very Act 1 heavy and dominant. She asserts herself in the family. She demands to be present in Act 2 for Gerald's interrogation. She becomes increasingly bold throughout the play. By the time we're in Act 3, she separates herself almost entirely from her family. And there's some question, though, in the end, whether she will come back to being with Gerald. But she's definitely articulates this need to change. So I think she's a very interesting and, on one level, very easy character to write on. If you want to make it more sophisticated and critical, you can go quite deep into her character and her presentation, and thinking about gender might be one way to do that.